So, das ist die große Kunst dahinter.
Das falsche
Oh,
Logo. We
komm.
have the wrong logo.
Oh, das ist aber schön. Da fühle ich mich daheim.
So. Good morning, world. We are live. Welcome to Open Clouds Dev number
12.
Goose. Christopher Allen Branston.
Carsten, hello.
That was my task and my job to say the number. Christopher Allen Branston.
I know sometimes, some things give you the feeling of importance, and I stole that from you, but you're still important. So, hello world.
And what I just see, you told me you go unbranded today.
Oh,
No, stay that way. Because we have an awesome guest, obviously sitting in the same office as you.
Oh, yes.
Ha!
The world office.
That is ha. We have an awesome guest today, and it is Mr. Jurlind Budurushi. Welcome to our show, Jurlind. Good to see you. Good to have you with us. And I promise you, you will have to say a lot of things today. And let me put it that way, you won't have anything to laugh about today because it's us. And we have a serious topic today. Because the new cloud report was... No, that's later.
Please keep things confidential. We are
Absolutely. We basically were the ones who brought in the term confidential. We invented it.
Yes. I think isn't that kind of the perfect opener for the topic of today's show? Being confidential. I'm in a different setting as I usually would be, because today we're going to be talking about security. Security, very generic, but we're going to be talking about security. And part of security could also be blurring the environment where I'm sitting in. That's why today, hello from the internet.
Oh, damn it. That show is going to be the worst one we ever did. But as usually, this show is sponsored by Vanilla Stack and
Report. Vanilla Stack.
No. Try that again. Just with one of our sponsors.
The Cloud Report, sponsoring open.clouds.dev since 2020.
Okay, I'm going to sing it. The Cloud Report, sponsoring open.clouds.dev.
Wow,
That's the way it is done.
Because we've never done it that way. And Jurlind, by the way, I'm very sorry. When guests actually come to our show, I try to behave. I try to put my best professional. Welcome to the show. All right.
That's going to be an awesome show. And you know why it's going to be an awesome show? Because today it's
happy birthday to Linux. Happy birthday to Linux. Happy birthday, Linus Torvalds, the kernel, and everybody doing open source. Happy birthday to you.
Yoo-hoo, Carsten, now you have to put the show off.
Woo. So might I just throw something in there? Our today's topic is security, and it's Linux's birthday. So why let's not all celebrate the awesome invention of an operating system where you don't have to care about security. It's unhackable. Hey, choose 1234 as a password. You know, it's all secure. That's what Linux
You're talking
is
about
for.
Windows. Windows 3.11.
Windows 3.11. Yeah, no, happy birthday, Linux. Great thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no better thing than Linux. Besides macOS, perhaps. Or Windows. Sorry, I'm just a marketing guy.
Talking about killing the vibe.
Yeah, but let's celebrate that. Happy 29th birthday, dear Linux, because it was August the 25th in 1991. I'm not sure if you, Christopher, were born back then.
Oh, that's so nice of you. But actually, back in 1991, I was 5 years old, and remember a life of joy, where I didn't have to worry a lot, where everything was a lot easier. But yeah, it's basically, I'm only a little older than Linux.
Yes, and there was that awesome announcement, and I read that out loud, if I'm allowed to do that. Hello, everybody out there using Minix. Is anybody remembering Minix? No? Yeah. I'm doing a free operating system, just a hobby, won't be big and professional like GNU. That's right. For 386 and 486 AT clones. This has been brewing since April and starting to get ready. I'd like any feedback on things because on feedback on things people like, dislike in Minix. As my OS resembles, it's somewhat same physical layout of the file system due to practical reasons, among other things. I've currently ported Bash and GCC and things seem to work. This implies that I'll get something practical within a few months, and I'd like to know what features most people would want. Any suggestions are welcome, but I won't promise I'll implement them. Linus. P.S. Yes, it's free of any Minix code and it has a multi-threaded file system. It is not portable, uses 386 task switching etc. And it probably never will support anything other than AT hard disks, as that's all I have. Well, let me put it that way. Linus, you've been so wrong, man. That is an awesome thing. It turns out 29 years later, nobody knows what Minix is, and everybody knows what Linux is all about. So perhaps, guys, since we do celebrate that, I start with saying why I love Linux, and then you can contribute to that. So I love Linux because it's free, it's everywhere, and it's the basis for whatever we do. That's just me. And it's open source and community and a good thing. And as Chris said, it's unhackable. And it invented the concept of sudo. Wait,
Yay!
So that is me. Chris, do you want to add something?
Well, I love Linux because I earn my money with it. It pays the bills. That's pretty smooth. Otherwise, I love the community aspect and it also being open source. It brings people together. And it surely has helped solve some of the world's problems by people thinking outside of the box, getting together and using combined skill to create a better technical future or better software to solve problems they found, or not always problems, maybe boost productivity, maybe just have some plain old fun. And yeah, I'm the community guy, so that's what I love the most about Linux and the whole movement behind it.
And Jurlind, what about you?
Well, you left nothing much more to say about that, but I would
That
like
was
to
the
add
idea.
this open source and the community support and being free. It provides a great opportunity also in teaching, when it comes to teaching, and also for, let's say, maybe countries where people cannot afford something that costs money, and they can teach themselves, and they can look at the source code, they can learn by doing and debug and look into things and change them as they like. So this is something which is really a great thing that we have around. That would be my 2 cents about that.
If it was only 2 cents. Interesting facts, all collected by 9to5 Linux. Linux is nearly everything. Perhaps not there because of the Apple logo, but there. It is obviously there. And to those who just see us the first time, I always present all of my phones. It's a running gag. It's powering
I don't know if that gag is running or if it's laying there dead, not breathing, already kind of grayish. But hey, we love your phones. All good.
Jurlind, what do you think? Will the show work out if it's just the two of us?
Sure.
Awesome. I should keep that in mind.
That is so mean. Okay, then maybe not saying anything mean about you, but actually the most interesting Linux fact, and I'm going to put this out there, is Linux itself was invented, founded, brought to the world in 1991.
Yes.
And in 1992, as the first company to offer enterprise-ready, so supported and maintenance Linux, was SUSE. And that is also one of the reasons why I find Linux and open source so appealing, and actually enjoy working for SUSE, because what we did was groundbreaking at the time, and also seeing what happened to us as company, to our portfolio, to Linux, the community itself is really, really great. And it's been an awesome movement, and I'm happy to be part of it.
The Cloud Report, that's open.clouds.dev, open.clouds.dev, celebrating SUSE today.
Woo! Okay, that's good.
Yeah, shall I repeat that?
Well, yeah, sure.
Should I do that more often?
I think it is really refreshing if not only myself sings all the time, but you join in on the fun.
We should perhaps make our guests singing. No. But another interesting fact is Linux did not only win us over, it won the web server wars as well, because Linux is running on 99% of all machines in the internet in regards to websites. So it's not everywhere, but many very interesting and very important areas. And it even powers 100% of the world's top 500 supercomputers. So I guess my iMac Pro is on position 501. But I can run it on top, the virtual machine.
So we real open source and Linux people are very, very inclusive. So yes, you can give yourself the nice warm feeling that your Mac machine has something to do with Linux.
It has a BSD kernel. And what is BSD? A close friend to Linux.
Yeah, close friend. It's more like the uncle 4 times over that always gets drunk at the family parties, and
it's
fun, but nobody
friend.
wants to hang out with him in their free time. So yeah, have fun with your Mac.
Well, wait. You just described me.
Oh. Well, have fun with yourself then.
Dear iPhone.
So maybe, just more important topics. Jurlind, what's your favorite Linux distribution?
Oh no, not again. I can give you the answer. I can give you the answer. I can give you the answer. But please answer the question.
No, you can give the answer. Go for it.
Last time, no. The edition before the last edition, I learned it is the distribution that is which support fits you best.
Well, I wouldn't say I have a favorite distribution. I would say that I use different distributions for different cases. So let's say I'm not attached to one of the specific distributions. There are many out there, and they have their strengths and they have their,
so what is your stance on OpenSUSE? Because we are a SUSE-loving show.
Didn't get that.
I was asking, what is your stance on OpenSUSE? Because we are a SUSE-loving show.
Well, I mean, it's great. It's out there. It's open source. It's free. Just get and try it and learn to love it. I mean, it's this is the things how you should do it. So this is what I would recommend.
Another great thing after basically 29 years of Linux is actually, you don't really have to decide. I know back in the day, some IT processes took quite the time. But nowadays, you can download an image in 5 minutes. You put it onto a USB stick, you mount it there, you install the software in another 10 minutes.
We should perhaps have a conversation about your internet connection speed.
Why?
On my end, it lasts like 30 minutes.
30 seconds.
Wait, no. I'm with Deutsche Telekom.
It always heavily depends which distribution you download and which ISP you choose. But even let's say if you need half an hour to download an image, my God, okay. That's still, in my opinion, something where I can say there's no easier or no better way to test out different flavors of software than actually using and learning Linux, because Linux is fast and easy to deploy.
Can we do a poll?
Okay.
Jurlind, which is your favorite Linux distribution?
Well, so I will be here neutral, and I would say Ubuntu.
Christopher, which is your favorite Linux distribution?
I'll be neutral too and say Ubuntu.
What? Carsten, which is your favorite Linux distribution? OpenSUSE, because I love Christopher.
Oh, that's so nice. But maybe to get into this topic a little bit. Generally, I do love OpenSUSE, no, hands down, no questions asked. But since I'm a community guy and I try to include everyone in what I do, and I really try to spread the use and the word of Linux, Ubuntu just has a couple more points on the ease of use and general usability side.
But just a couple.
Because really, yeah, just a couple. Because in the meantime, I did get a new machine and tried installing different versions of Linux, and OpenSUSE is great because it has all the packages, and we have Package Hub. If you want to take something to enterprise model, you can switch to the enterprise model if you want. OpenSUSE has all the different desktops you could imagine. It has a lot of functionality. But if I compare it to Ubuntu, and when you install Ubuntu, it's just one tick easier. Yes, you can edit that into my name. It's no problem. See.
Awesome.
So the thing is, we talked about this in the last episode. OpenSUSE officially is the Mercedes-Benz of Linux distributions. But the point is, not everybody wants to drive a Mercedes-Benz, and
That's why I love OpenSUSE.
I'm
Because
pretty
I'm
sure.
driving a Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, but I'm
Jurlind, what
pretty
are you
sure.
driving?
I'm driving a BMW.
See,
That would
different
explain
people,
a lot.
different cars, and I
That
have
would
a Audi.
explain a lot. And
But
you,
but
Christopher?
yeah,
Yeah.
what about me? What about
What are
me?
you driving?
I'm driving an Audi.
I know why you love Ubuntu. I see.
Right? Thank you. Thank you. Right, exactly. But also the thing is, seeing as SUSE is the Mercedes-Benz of Linux distributions, I don't know if I had a Mercedes, if I would really give it to a beginner, to a driving beginner. I'm not sure about that because with the enhanced power some of these cars from Mercedes have, I'm not sure if a beginner could deal with it. And that's why I say, hey, don't you want to use more the VW Golf of Linux distribution? So take Ubuntu. It's solid. It works. It runs. There's hardly anything you can break.
Frankly, that was the most boring advertisement you ever did here.
Well, we said we didn't want to go branded today, and I thought
You said
we had a
so.
different. we
You
had a
said
different
so. I said
topic
I want to
today.
go totally branded, but I want to brand it in my way, in my sense. It's something completely different.
SUSE, please call us to purchase stuff.
Cloudical, please call us to purchase even more stuff.
Everything
Please
is
call us to.
open. Everything is green when you're on SUSE's team. Everything is open when you and Linux are king. Huh? You got a Cloudical song like that?
Ice, ice, baby. I was told.
Yes. So I started when Carsten announced Vanilla Stack, I started sending him Vanilla Ice memes, and it took a while, huh? Didn't it?
What did I announce?
Vanilla Stack.
What is Vanilla Stack?
I don't know. It's some kind of open source thing.
Ish. Something. But we have more important things to talk about today as Ubuntu.
Yes.
Yeah, but then again, Ubuntu should be thankful and should reach out to Linus because it's not Ubuntu, it's Mark Shuttleworth. But nonetheless, he should personally reach out to Linus because his Ubuntu dream would not have come through without Linus Torvalds and his small little announcement, right? So small things that change the world. That's what I say to my girlfriend. Oh, forget it.
I was just saying, you know about that, huh? But the new cloud report is now available.
Yes, the new cloud report is there. The new cloud report is there. Wait, no, I wanted to show that one. The new cloud report is there. Yeah, and now I completely lost track. A new cloud report is there. And you know what? I have it here in my browser. And you guys watching this show, you can get it. You can get it if you
really want.
No, please don't. You can get it if you.
So the new cloud report is all about IaaS and PaaS.
Absolutely.
Interesting topics.
About container technology, that's, it's never gonna take traction. Communication and leadership, highly overrated. Resilience and cloud native security. I know. Who is interested? Look at that. She's real. Look at that. It's not just a meme. There is Frederica. Please say something, Frederica. Anyways, so what do we talk about? We have interviews, for example, with Brent Schroeder from SUSE and some other guys about container. 5 questions asked. We have interviews and interesting content in regard to infrastructure as a service, what it is all about. And you should definitely read that because it's very, very interesting. We have something about Gaia X. Gaia X is great. European hyperscaler, written by an awesome guy called Wolfgang Soll. We have an awesome article from ES to Managed PaaS. That article gives you the most insights you've ever seen. You should definitely read that article. Look at that. There's a SUSE project logo.
Don't read that article. Yeah, on the last one, could you flip back a couple of slides? What was that Ansible? I've heard of that. Isn't that something
No, that's never gained any traction. But you know, the author of that article, that's a good one. Jurlind, what is your take on that? On the author of that article?
I cannot see what is on the screen.
Look at the picture. It was me. So gaining resilience, cloud native security. Cloud native security. Jurlind, I have no idea what that is all about, but you will tell us in a few seconds. Hybrid cloud orchestration, you know my why, and cloud tests. That is the new cloud report. And, oh, you should attend KubeCon.
The
next KubeCon.
2021. See you there.
No, there's another one in 2020.
The North American one.
A little bit delayed. But just a little bit. But that brings us, that cloud native security article brings us to an announcement I read about yesterday, and that is SUSE buys partners with, I mean, you know, frankly speaking, I mean, with SUSE, you need to take care nowadays. Every second announcement is like, we buy Rancher or someone else, so we need to take care. But this time they did not buy a company. They partnered with a company, with an awesome company called Polyverse. And they partnered with SUSE to protect against zero-day attacks. So, Jurlind, you were basically just yesterday, I feel like, having a conversation with Polyverse. Can you elaborate a little bit into why Polyverse would do that with SUSE and what would be the benefits of Polyverse? And perhaps tell our viewers what Polyverse actually is doing and why that might be great and why that is great for SUSE and for all of us. And I should take a break.
SUSE.
Cloudical.
Sure. Yeah, so Polyverse, what is doing Polyverse? Well, as the name says, I would start by the name Polyverse. So it's a kind of poly, which comes from the Greek root of many, and verse, like many versions, if you want to understand that by the name branding. And what actually Polyverse does when it says that or defending against zero-day attacks is assuming that you have, let's say, a kind of already known vulnerabilities which are on the CVE scores, and you would try to patch or do your system and to keep that up to date and to check if any of these attacks is trying to be executed on your platform, be those on your operating system level, let's say on the, for example, the SUSE operating system layer. You would be able to defend those. But as we know, operating systems are a complex construct, and many vulnerabilities might be hidden there, and we didn't know about them yet. So someone might have found some vulnerability and might exploit this, and there is where we talk about zero-day attacks, something that has not been identified so far, and someone comes with that vulnerability and try to exploit that on different systems and platforms. Polyverse there, it supports that kind of against such attacks without knowing that these attacks are happening, and it supports those, it defends those attacks on memory based. Yeah, so we have to distinguish that we are talking here about memory based attacks, and memory based attacks, just to give you an example, are like buffer overflow attacks or integer overflow attacks, where you have, let's say, a function that is not watching the limits of the parameters or of the buffer, and you write the memory on the stack, and you you override the return address of that program, and you jump to another program, and so you own more or less the system. You break the flow of the execution. So now you would think, okay, but I know about other technologies that do protect me against that, right? So one of such technologies is so-called stack canary, which is a kind of techniques that it is being used to determine whether a return address of a program, of a function, has been overwritten, right? But this is in a sense, you can exploit the buffer overflow. We need to trample the canary, but if you override that canary, you don't notice the attack anymore. So that is why, like using only that kind of technique, it won't protect you against such zero-day attacks that use memory based, that are memory based. Another technique is, for example, shadow stack, where you actually put more or less a copy of the return address on a shadow stack, on another stack, and when the function returns, it looks into that and it sees whether the return address has been changed compared to the one that has been saved in the shadow stack. And if that is the case, so it does a kind of segmentation fault, and so that the attacker cannot further proceed, or so the system interrupts and the execution interrupts on there. But even with that, so this return address that has been saved on the stack, on the shadow stack, an attacker trying to find where this shadow stack is, because it's lying in somewhere in memory. So if he's able to identify where this shadow stack is being stored in memory, it can also change that place where the address is stored. So you also wouldn't notice that kind of attack. Even though I'm not saying that those techniques are not good, they are very good, very intelligent ones, but always this is a race with respect to how big is the effort of an attacker. So how difficult it is for an attacker to circumvent such a measurement, right? Another technique is, for example, non-executable stack, where you have the possibility, but this is kind of a hardware. So I see you.
we are basically, it's basically like Christopher and I, we are sitting there like,
wow, finally some quality on our show. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's not deserved. We don't deserve that level of quality. No, Jurlind, just go ahead. It's awesome. It's really.
No, but I'd like to get to understand if you don't, and then I'm not explaining it right.
No. Everything is good. It's just like we are not used to that level of quality. Because,
okay, thank you.
Again, don't forget about the show's motto. It's. I can show it. It's open source clouds development personality and bad jokes. There's nothing about competency, nothing about knowledge, nothing about understanding things. So You
we
are
really
completely
deliver
wrong
on the
here.
last two. But I think it's very, very great, and especially what you just said, where you were saying, hey, if you don't understand it, then I might be explaining something wrong, because I bet some of the people watching this show really aren't deep tech experts. They find this funny or whatever. So thank you very much for that. That's great. I
But
could follow
Jurlind was not
you
even
very
finished,
well up
I
to now.
guess. I feel like he was not finished. So, Jurlind, please go ahead. And don't
Sure.
be
I was just
disturbed
trying
by
to
us making funny faces.
No, thank you. So I appreciate that. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Well, another technique, as I said, it's like the non-executable stack, where you have a kind of hardware support which you can switch on a BIOS or into your firmware, to be more generic. And if you compile the application, let's say, so you are compiling an application running on a certain system that it supports that hardware setting, that would help you so that the stack is not, you divide between executable data and non-executable data. So if an attacker tries to execute on the stack, or to rewrite the return address, so he wouldn't be able to do that, because this is lying in a non-executable part of the stack. Last but not least, which is also very well known, it's the address space layer randomization, which has been there, implemented in Linux. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was around mid 2005 or 6. I have to look on that. I'm not really sure.
Ha, we got him. We got him. We got him. Yes.
So, and yeah, so this what it does actually, so it tries to randomize the position of the libraries on the stack. So you have a kind of the libraries, while you load application onto your memory, and it's running, it's trying to call some functions, and the functions are loaded into the memory. So you would have this function would be loaded in different part of the memory, in random parts of the memory, right? So if you don't know that how you call it, if you don't know, let's say the randomized or the let's say the factor while you're randomizing, so you wouldn't guess where the library is in the memory, right? So because we are talking also about huge memory index.
Is that kind of like hashes with blockchain?
He said blockchain.
No, not exactly. So hashes with blockchain. So a hash, it's actually, when you talk about hash, it's nothing else but a kind of function where you map a bigger set into a smaller set, right? And you have the characteristic or the feature of being one-way function, meaning that it's impossible, or practically at least impossible, to get back into the origin of the function. So this is when you talk about hashing. So, but here it's just that you put the libraries into your stack, into the address of the stack, not, let's say, in a predictable order, but they are spread around your memory address, and you find them in different addresses. So imagine how you are writing an exploit, and you are assuming that a kind of function is uploaded at a certain address, which this is how it would work if you don't use that feature. So, and then if, let's assume this library has a vulnerability, and then an attacker would write the exploit code that it would jump into that address, exploit that vulnerability, and then take over the system. But if that kind of function, it's not, I'm done. If not, it's not on that address, you cannot find that, So this is the point.
Dear Jurlind, I have a stupid question and I have a real question.
Sure.
First of all, the stupid question, because Chris said blockchain, I need to top that. And pardon me for the question up front, but I want to top that. Has it something to do with AI?
Well, it depends how you call AI, right? So, what is AI? No, not really. So AI, I mean, we have, of course, kind of a lot of buzzwords, and in that respect, artificial intelligence or machine learning, whatever which branch you are looking into it. I mean, this is kind of, I would say, kind of artificial intelligence because you are trying to predict or to defend against something that you have predicted. So, yeah, I mean, it's a rather philosophical.
Jurlind, I really admire you for your ability to answer the most stupid questions in a world in a real serious way. I really appreciate and I really admire you for that. Because obviously my question was bullshit. But here's a real question. Here's a real question, and that could be interesting to our viewers and interesting to those who want to understand a little bit more about that approach. And first of all, we are by no means a polyverse kind of marketing show. Not at all. We're just discussing an approach. But how does that approach differ from the approaches other company take? Say, no, don't want to say any names.
Yeah.
Do we have a list today? A checklist? No, we don't have. How is that different?
We don't have a list.
Yeah. We always continue with our long list. But how is that different from say, the Palo Alto F5 Cisco Norton approach?
I mean, this question comes at the right time because I was more or less finished with providing you the kind of different techniques that are out there. So most of this whatever vendors or the Linux distribution, so they would use one of these 4 techniques that I just mentioned. So these are the techniques on how you try to mitigate memory-based attacks. So these are the known ones. And of course, as I said and tried to explain, all of them have advantages, but also disadvantages that more smart people have found out how to circumvent them. And Polyverse, it takes a different approach with respect to them. So it's into very similar, let's say, when we're talking about the last one, the address space layer randomization, but it doesn't take the address space, so it doesn't randomize where actually these functions are into the memory per se, like the address space layout randomization does. But it does something similar. So it compiles actually the source code. So it changes the compiled code, the instructions, and the libraries where you find those on memory in a kind of randomized way. So you can randomize, you can compile. So if we talk, so we're talking, so this is also a very good point where we can go into where we began with the Linux, right? So it's open source. You can look at the source code and you can use it for free as you want, right? So, and here, when you install a Linux system on your machine, it's going to be looking the same. Well, you install this also in 10 other machines, right? So the compiled code is going to be the same. While Polyverse is exactly sitting in between into this process, into the compilation of the source code, when then it's being, and after that it's being installed on the machine, or it's providing the libraries. So it's scrambling the source code in a kind of way, in a randomized way, that you, as the end result, you would get a unique copy of your operating system. So what does this mean, actually? It means that if you would write an exploit, so let's say we know a vulnerability and we didn't patch our systems. So let's take even the easier way. And one attacker would find out that we are running on a certain Linux distribution, that it has known vulnerabilities and these are not patched. So with one exploit, he would be able to take over all of these systems. So he would write this exploit only once. He will take one system by the other, yeah, circumventing other control mechanisms because he's able to exploit that vulnerability. When it comes, let's assume now we have actually not we are not installing the Linux, the original Linux, but we are installing the Polyverse one. So we take the source code, we more or less polymorph that, compiled it, and then installed on the system. So we have a unique system on each machine. Let's assume that a hacker in one of the tries he made to hack the system, so to take control, right? So it's not that it's not impossible, but the effort is greater. So let's assume he has been lucky, and with the exploit he has run, he just take over one of the systems. Nevertheless, he cannot scale anymore, so he cannot use the same exploit to run it on the second system, because the exploit is not going to work anymore, because the exploit is expecting some libraries or the things that have vulnerabilities to be on certain addresses and to behave or to be named in a certain way or to match a certain kind of keyword. And that's why this is not going to scale so fast. I'm not saying that it's not impossible, but the effort is being here kind of increasing exponentially, because for each and every system you would need then to write another exploit. You need to identify where you need to study that system again from the beginning. So you need to debug the source code of the system. You have to have access onto that system. So this is where I think Polyverse is doing a grounding kind of approach and adding on top of those approaches that we talked before. But I would say you can also combine them. So the address space layout randomization, it's still something you could use into adding into security. So the more security controls you use on that layer, the more difficult and the higher it's going to be the effort for an attacker. So does this answer your question, Carsten?
I'm completely speechless. Wait.
Thank you.
There is a little bit more.
That was so. I thought that was very, very wholesome, and thanks again, because you really break it down, even for people who aren't in the job, working experts, whatever. I think that was very, very easily understandable for people interested in tech, and that is a very open source thing you can do, is break down complex things for everybody to understand. But there is one question that I've been meaning to ask a security expert the next time I meet one. So hello.
You ask me now.
That's Apple user. But that aside,
what is
we're talking about 0-day exploits, and we see stuff like that a lot with all the different vendors that are making solutions around there. And actually, a 0-day exploit, as we mentioned at the beginning, is an exploit that's not known yet. So a lot of the work that probably comes with product groups like these is predictive work, kind of being one step ahead, trying to figure out what is a potential attacker planning on doing on my system, or how will he try to enter my system and find exploits. Do you have any information or tips on that, where you'd say, how does actually this predictive work? How do they do that? Do they just know more than others? But we've seen stuff like Meltdown and Spectre and Heartbleed, where we had errors that have been there for 20 years. Then one guy comes and mentions it, and then turns into a huge problem. But thanks to CVE compliance and CVE compliant tools, we could fix those issues pretty fast. But how would that work with the new exploits? How do I know what to look for?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very good question, but at the end of the day, it's very difficult to say that you could have a kind of systematic view into knowing what's going to happen and to predict that, because this is just based or it's due to the complexity those systems have. Those systems have so much. So it's a big. Let's say if you think in a sense, it's a machine that has, let's say, in a kind of infinite number of states, and it's impossible for you to search that set of states and to see which path into those different states can be exploitable. And that's why you want to predict, or you want to prevent that, or you want to take that kind of branch out of your infinite number of states. So it's impossible for you to count those states in a kind of complex situation. So the best thing you can do there, it's something also what you're doing with what Polyverse is doing. So it's not trying to predict actually something, but it's trying to do this as hard as possible for an attacker, because as I said before, it's not that Polyverse, it knows the zero-day attacking beforehand, and it's saying, I know that, or I knew that before you, that you are going to come this way, or you're going to take this path, and I'm not allowing you. But it's trying to make this, if someone identifies a bug, a vulnerability that can be exploited, and it's tried to exploit it on a certain kind of system, this hacker or whatever engineer, whatever you call it, someone that is trying to even improve the things, is making kind of certain assumptions about the state the machine has and about the state the machine is going to have afterwards. And by more or less obscuring this, even though, of course, in computer security, in information security, you would say security by obscurity, it's not the best way. So it's not the strategy you should go. But this is when it comes to security, let's say to security protocols, to algorithms, when it comes to encryption algorithms, where you need to follow the Kharkov principle saying that you should be transparent, the algorithm should be known, and the security should be only put or lie on the secrecy of the key used by the algorithm. So in that sense, of course, security by obscurity doesn't bring you an advantage. But in other contexts, as in here, where you are, it is impossible for you to count the states in beforehand and to know what's going to be happening. This is a kind of measurement that it provides you a high level of security in respect to hackers, right?
I think it's also interesting because when I think about the multiple security discussions I have, and if especially vendors, salespeople from other vendors come up to me and want to talk about the topic of security, it's always about the software side, it's about the front end side, it's about passwords, it's about the app itself. But as you just mentioned very clearly, you were talking about the RAM and about functions happening in there, kind of going from something that's being loaded into there to the actual process that's happening, and actually that there's a big threat there, and that's techniques or methodologies that hackers or whoever might use to infiltrate your systems. And I think that's such an interesting thing, especially coming from the SUSE side here again, building operating systems, but building operating systems made for infrastructure, which basically enables processes for your whole company to start at the base level. And say, let's have a look into that, and let's have, let's say, security tools that help us at base level to protect our systems, because everybody else is going platform, platform, platform. Yeah, Google does that for me. Microsoft does that for me. It's in the cloud. Or even if they have their own workloads on their own systems, they're all saying, oh, well, it's containerization and I have containers and they're stateless. And who will hack my container if it's not even there? But even that runs on a server, and even that has an operating system. And so it's, for me, such a fundamentally different conversation I'm having with Polyverse than I would have with a lot of different companies. So that seems pretty great.
Yeah. Before Jurlind is jumping in there, I just want to add one thought that we discussed yesterday, because we had some short conversation with Polyverse as well. Their CTO said an interesting thing. He said, security has to be as simple as installing a product or as pressing a button, because otherwise around it won't be accepted at all. And he brought the example with Git, like every developer is able to do Git commit and Git push and whatever. But even if you start rolling out your OpenSSL certificate, it's like OpenSSL minus something else, minus do something else again, and so on and so forth. Nobody does that. That was basically something which impressed me a lot, because it brought it onto the point. And I feel like that is actually already part of the response to your comment. But nonetheless, I feel like Jurlind will elaborate into that even more, way more. And before I hand over to you, Jurlind, and again, I'm so happy that you are here and that you are able to cope with us completely morons. Thank you for that. And now please go ahead and give Christopher what he deserves to become.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for having me here. So I'm having a lot of fun with you. So it's that's why I also like to discuss. I'm feeling comfortable, and this is fun. So I love to be here. So thank you for having me. When it comes to what Carsten say, maybe I just want to get back to what Carsten say when it and referring to what the CTO of Polyverse was saying yesterday, which I cannot only but agree with him 100%. So also due to the fact that my PhD, maybe because I have a doctor title here, so it's on I have this on usable security actually. So it's exactly what Carsten was saying, or the CTO was saying. It's combining usability and security together, because I mean we have learned from our experience in practice that we have a great security concepts, we have great security protocols, but in practice we have to think about one thing is how they are implemented. So this is a different challenge there. So it's a practical challenge how you implement those. And if you do any mistake during the implementation, and if you use languages that are not secure or not provide you countermeasures for security, so this is a different topic. Another topic is where we talk about usability. So let's think about PHP, right? So it would give you the possibility to communicate encrypted and secure, and nobody can read your messages, and everyone holds a public key and private key pair, and they don't need to exchange. They upload their keys onto some server, and the world would have been so much greater, and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, we are still like 2020, right? So it's email encryption. Let's say for the normal user that wants to do this by themselves at home and not relying on a kind of service, it's still not there because of this, because of usability. So usability is something, and people try to circumvent that. We know about, for example, VPNs. So we know people want to use VPNs for getting access to a remote location. So they get access to a remote location by using VPNs. And if this doesn't work, they try to mitigate that. They try to circumvent that and get access from a different path, and opening doors which as said by the I don't know his name now. I forgot the name of this NSA chief operation technology something. He has a great talk at the Enigma 2016 when he was saying like if so he is making a talk about how you can make it difficult for nation state hackers to hack your systems, right? And he was saying that, well, at the moment you will open this door, be this for support. So you will have a system that is not going to work for some reasons, and you'll open a door to your support team, which you are trying to call, and they will open the door. They will listen to that, right? So because this is their job. I mean, they're doing just their job. So and this is the moment where they will get into your systems. And this is why usability it's bloody important to security.
What is there more to add?
Yeah, I was just thinking of whether I'd say something or not, because I feel like every single word is true.
So Christopher,
I shut down my VPN connection now because no.
No, I think this is very, very relevant because for a longer time, when I talk about security, I'm always saying, a lot of the security issues might be layer 8 problems. It's about the users. But while consumer industry has been making technology more and more usable and easier to use, the complexity behind it has also been getting complexer and complexer. And so I don't think there should be a discussion. Is the user 100% responsible for the whole security layer, or is that something that the company that is offering a service or is offering something in the IT space should be taking seriously? Because I'm just figuring, with how would I know? How would I know if I'm, for example, using Netflix on my TV and the Netflix servers aren't secure? I wouldn't notice until the point that probably weird stuff starts happening within my own network, just because I'm using a third-party network from a vendor. And with these vendors that are all fully digital, fully cloudified, it might be very, very important, as mentioned earlier, to look at the base.
Well, that's exactly a point that I want to make. As I usually tend to say, in cloud environments, you do not only scale your infrastructures and your applications, but also your security issues. And more importantly, you don't just scale them, you roll them out on a worldwide level, don't you? Plus, you rely heavily on what others provide you, so you are losing control then again, which is an awesome combination if you think of that, because if your environment is not intrinsically safe is a perhaps a wrong term, but is not intrinsically providing you some level of security, which, for example, the polymorphic solution does, but instead is relying on, say, pattern matching and artificial intelligence and whatever buzzword you want to bring in there, it won't be safe. It will just be something which tries to play catch up with what is going on. So what we need is, from my perspective, and Jurlind, please correct me if I'm wrong, but what we need is something which is already giving us some level of intrinsic security, instead of just trying to play catch up. I mean, you add different levels of security on top of each other. That's another kind of story there, but basically that kind of intrinsic security is something that and we should get paid for that. that, for example, the polyverse solution is bringing in. You said, Jurlind, to some extent it is security by obscurity, but frankly, one could say that in a negative way, or we could understand that as a level of security actually provided, because you perfectly explained the aspect of making it not scaling anymore. That kind of, okay, I found a hole, and it simply does not scale because on the next computer that hole is on a completely different position in memory. Happy searching. So that is something which I feel like is not to be underestimated, and perhaps one would combine that with other security approaches, with other security frameworks, because there are definitely other companies in the market that do a lot of very useful and great security, such as Aqua or some others as well. And I'd recommend exploring into that perhaps in the next edition, because I'm not sure what you are going to do next Tuesday, Jurlind. Awesome. Christopher, you sensed that kind of, yes, I'm going to be there, right? I sensed that.
Of course, I had that in my
in your hair.
In the back, in the back of my head, I heard it knocking. Absolutely. I think basically we can't ever talk too much about security. That's that's just the point. Security is a very, very important thing. I think leaving away all the brand names, just the combination of a vendor making infrastructure solutions and actually bundling that, maybe even in form in the future of some appliance, or at least as a working software bundle, makes absolute sense. Because if we're thinking of what's going to happen in the future, I'm figuring from talking to a lot of people in the industry that we've kind of reached the maximum saturation of what are people willing to take from cloud vendors, from big hyperscalers, and the people have had enough of basically being bullied into solutions and solution stacks that are made easy and affordable, but really don't encompass the business you're doing or the end users that you're actually responsible for. So I'm seeing a big movement to either own companies having their own infrastructure again, or for managed services and smaller scale CSPs that really can offer a wholesome service, tailor-made and custom-made towards the business that a customer is doing.
It's about trust,
and security, security will be a huge topic in that. So yeah, we can have security on every show we do. It's a really interesting and awesome topic. I learned a lot today. Thank you very much, Jurlind.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
But then again, we are not even done. We just got it started because there are so many other aspects to security. We just discussed the polyverse approach, and frankly, I love that approach. But as with every good approach, it's a matter of combination. To have a greater level of security, you might need not just to rely on one thing. You might need to add additional things on top, useful things on top.
Maybe this show is actually fulfilling somewhat an educational aspect, because I do think it's very, very important if we had more guys like Jurlind out there who could break down this complex topic and make it understandable for each and every user who's using any form of tool, application, platform, whatever it is. Then maybe each and every user would be kind of more sensible to the topic of security itself, and because you understand what it's about, you're gonna be part of the solution and not part of the actual problem. So this is actually something very, 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 very great. It's at least I, after today, have a new perspective on stuff, and that will definitely help me in conversations I'm having with a lot of our enterprise users and developers and people who create and make and maintain systems. So that's something pretty awesome.
I have a last stupid question. Yes, please allow me for
Oh.
that.
Oh.
Isn't Linux, which today has its 29th birthday, isn't Linux safe by default?
So the question goes to me?
That was a question to all of us.
Well, maybe to give the idiot answer back. I must admit, in the end user space, if we're talking about Linux on a desktop system, it is a pretty safe solution, because
Until you allow me to open the
yeah,
desktop and
not
work with it.
the thing just is, if you use common sense while you're using Linux, it will be a pretty safe operating system, because a lot of the hacking that is targeted at the end user space,
I want
just
to
isn't.
be administrator.
Well, be your own administrator. Have fun. All I'm saying is, because this is a common misconception, if we're talking about end user Linux on desktop or laptop PCs or whatever it is, yes, it's a pretty secure option, and you have to think about less security relevant topics than using other software and systems. But if we're talking about the big infrastructures and the servers behind, or that they are made of, then it's a very, very relevant topic. Then you should be listening to what we're saying here.
But then I'd say, why don't we install desktop Linuxes on the server side?
Because you'll be missing certain functionality, or you'll be having trouble with the actual workload you're trying to run through your desktop system,
Or
or
we
maybe
just
you're
ask
going to
Mr.
be
Jurlind Budurushi because he knows best.
Yeah, let's ask Jurlind, because I'm figuring if you use a plain desktop operating system for a server, you might be opening the gate for anybody who wants to get in your system yourself. And then you're making yourself responsible for the
But you
dilemma.
would have a nice little desktop, a K desktop.
User interfaces. Yay!
You see that level of stupidity that we bring onto the table, Jurlind?
Great, because you're asking you're asking great questions. I mean, for a lot of people, it's sometimes things, because they are complex. They maybe just think also complex and don't try to. Well, this was one of the first things I learned when studying computer science, that if you have complex things, you have to break them down into smaller things that you can solve. I have a funny friend that he was always saying and complaining, saying, "Yeah, what's heck going on here? Now we have many problems. We had only one before. So how this is going to help us?" So you have also this kind of guys there. So it's you can expect all of the answers, but maybe to that question, like why desktop? I mean, when it comes to security, it's about and when it comes to operating system, as I said in the beginning, these are just complex construct. So there are a lot of code there, and it's approximately accepted in practice that around 1,000 code lines, you would have one bug that you could exploit. So you can imagine now, if we use a desktop kind of Linux into a server, you would have much more code lines, because you would support the user interface and whatever applications that the user would use. And this, from a security perspective, would mean only that you would have even a greater attack surface. That is one of the reasons why you wouldn't use a desktop version on a server, and also for performance reasons.
Might I also add one big difference, because that's a question we get from customers all day long. I could just use Ubuntu. I could just use OpenSUSE. I could use this. I could use that. Yes, you can. It's always technically possible, especially if you're a hardcore Linux user. You'll probably know how to manipulate and write and compile and just create your own software. But one of the very, very big differences, and this is talking enterprise grade security and talking actually real manufacturing of software is one of the very, very big differences, for example, between SUSE Linux Enterprise Server and OpenSUSE is that we're paying a lot of people in our QA department to do quality assurance and testing. And a lot of that is not only around, oh, does this work? Does it install? Yeah, ship it, ship it, ship it. But it's actually a larger view on the software itself, and security is one relevant topic that we're checking there. And we only give out updates or patches or new versions or new service packs when it's done and approved by our QA department. And that's something you won't really get in the most open source projects out there, where we have a lot of people collaborating to test or to create great stuff. But in the most cases, you won't have a QA security department kind of within your community project. So that's also a big difference. It's just, use the right tool for the right job.
Allow me to have a little bit different view on that, not in regards to desktop versus server. But if I think of operating systems such as, say, Core OS or Debian or others that have a very, very active community around that, they are, although being community projects, made for prime time because their surface is, in regards to attacking surface, not that huge. And the community is very, very much behind them. But I'm on your side in regard to, say, Linux Mint or whatever, perhaps even Ubuntu server, because there's a lot in there, because it's about and around usability, it's about and around making things easy. And I'm totally seconding the aspect of ensuring security ongoing, absolutely on your side. In regards to that, I would always say use a trusted product, use a product that has a huge community behind it, use a product that has a sense of security. And I'm totally on your side. And again, in regards to whether that is the case with most of the distributions, I would doubt that because it's then a completely different target audience. But globally saying, and yes, I was totally aware of my completely stupid and moron question. And if you believe me or not, I did that on purpose.
You wrote that down before the show. You've been thinking about that all day, haven't you?
The last 2 weeks. No, but the point is, there is a very, very important aspect in what Jurlind said, in what you said, Christopher, and that is security is basically something that just needs to be there, and you need to lower the surface, you need to shrink the surface attack, you need to bring in additional aspects such as again, we don't do advertisement here, but such as from Polyverse, their solution, you need to perhaps bring in additional security things, and you need to make it as hard as possible for somebody to break into and to alter your system. It's interesting, and I would like to elaborate into that a little bit more next time, because the batteries of my camera are going down.
Because you have to think of more questions now. I
would like to bring in another aspect that might be of interest in regard to security, specifically in regard to security in cloud environments. And that would be the aspect of firewalls, because there is an interesting take on that. And I, to some extent, support that take. That is basically saying, yeah, firewalls, cloud, not a good thing, because you add up more of complexity, more of potential security holes, and so on and so forth, and basically do not solve the real problems. So, but from my perspective, we should elaborate into that perhaps a little bit more next time.
Does anybody remember an app called Facebook, and that they told us our user data is completely safe there, and then came something called Cambridge Analytica and changed the view on that? So yeah, talking about firewalls and security seems very interesting at that point. Believing in something that's there to protect you.
What was the thing with Facebook and Cambridge? I just uploaded another private picture onto Facebook, and I feel like
I just said that, because I would figure as a user when I sign up for that, here's Facebook's firewall, and my data is on the side of Facebook. But in the end, it turned out that with the help of third-party vendors who had APIs to different parts of the general system,
you don't need a firewall for that. You don't need a firewall.
It was completely unimportant which security process or which security tools Facebook is actually using, because we couldn't give a fuck all, because we just exported the data right to their exploit. So yay for that.
Now I need again to add the no appropriate language flag to the video, because you said fuck. I wouldn't ever say that word.
Shit, I'm sorry that I said fuck.
Damn.
That was a fuck up.
Damn. you idiot. No,
I'm sorry. When I talk about personal and user data and our personal right to have some privacy online, I get very excited. That's just something, it's an emotional thing.
And honesty. Frankly and honesty. From my perspective, I feel like there are so many aspects to that. We should, if Jurlind would like to, take another round next week.
Sure, I'd be glad. I'd be happy to participate. It was a lot of fun today.
Jurlind, we are not always that funny. Mostly we are more funny.
Next week we'll make it extra interesting. We'll make a little drinking game out of it. Every time we have to Google something, Jurlind says, and we don't understand, we have to take a shot.
I'll be drunk within 2 minutes.
I'm going to be messed up by the end of the show.
I'm going to be drunk by 2 minutes in the show. That's
so much.
But I enjoy my earpods. Thank you, Apple. Secure by design.
Well, at least Jurlind, thanks again for breaking stuff down for us. As I mentioned, I learned a lot of stuff. It really helped me understand something that's even really important for me, because I work at SUSE, and we've announced a new partnership and initiative. So that was really, really great. And I am looking forward to seeing you again on the show.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm happy that I appreciate that really a lot, that you guys found this interesting, useful, and informative. So it's great feedback for me. Thanks for that, for having me here.
No, don't thank us. We have to thank you. Yeah.
And because I just can't go on it. And special thanks go out to the Cloud Report, sponsoring open.clouds.dev.
That's great.
It's not. If you hear that for the 12th time, the problem is you hear that while falling asleep. The problem is when you wake up, you still hear it. And you basically have the impression that guy is sitting next to you all day long.
There is no such thing as bad PR. I'm a marketing expert, and I know how that goes.
I'd say, Jurlind, thank you. You were the one bringing quality to the show. Chris, the both of us, we need to go back to the gym, because we need to bring down the quality next time. Nobody is expecting that from us, from our show.
Yes.
Jurlind, no, there needs to be a rematch.
We have an image. That we might lose if we get too intelligent on our show. But okay,
Absolutely.
I'll think about something special that we can do to dumb it down.
you could let me ask a question.
Yeah, exactly. Just let Carsten take the lead.